Shall we start, ma'am? Mythili, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, good morning. Shall we start, ma'am?
Yeah.
Okay. We welcome BVA members for the webinar number 125, Approach to Financial Modeling. We have two speakers today. The first speaker is Madam Mythili. Madam Mythili is a manager consulting in Innovation Business Solutions. She is a CA and CS with 15 years of experience in audit, taxation, and advisory. She began her career at L&L, then moved on to accounting support services for overseas hedge funds before transitioning into retail sector as manager finance for a prominent sari brand. She discovered her interest in consulting and works to provide holistic solutions with beneficial clients. We welcome you, ma'am. The second speaker is Mr. Vijay Simha, who is a chartered accountant with experience in audit, taxation, financial analysis, and business consulting. Currently, a senior associate at Innovation Business Solutions, specializing in business valuations, compensation plans, and regulatory compliance. Proven experience in financial modeling, investment banking, and family succession planning, committed to delivering timely and effective client solutions. He is known for his strong leadership, effective communication, and critical thinking skills. Welcome, Mr. Vijay Simha. Over to you, ma'am. And before I start, I would like to, record my special thanks to Mythili, ma'am. I know her, despite busy schedule, she has consented to be the speaker. We convey a special thanks, ma'am.
Ma'am, you are
muted, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. Very good morning to all of you. Just 1 second, I will share my screen. Is it visible?
Now it is visible.
You're able to see it in a slide share mode?
Madam, it is now it is visible.
Now it is coming.
Okay. On a slide share mode, it's visible, right?
Slide share mode is visible.
Okay, fantastic. So why this question of business modeling? I will sort of give you a brief. We all started out with valuation primarily, and predominantly, as we all know, the kind of valuation that we do has been predominantly only a regulatory sort of approach where the client requires a compliance for a certain standard. So slowly, when we started those kind of valuation exercise, we realized that we weren't actually contributing to a price discovery phase where we are part of investor conversations, or we are not completely aware of the entire manner in which the business is being built, and we have half data. And generally, when you have a turnaround time for a valuation, as you all know, unless it's a very serious conversation and they're using a deliverable for certain purposes, it is usually, the price, you arrive at it, you have a series of cash flows, and you just turn out the deliverable. That's how the entire valuation scope was. So we wanted to actually go away from the regulatory framework for valuation and see where do we actually add value to the client, since the organization per se, our DNA was, how do you add value to the client and be of certain meaning to the entire conversation that is happening between the client and the investor. So that's where the whole concept of we getting into business modeling started. Now, when we approach business modeling, initial assignments, when we do it, we sort of say understand from the business stakeholders as to what is the kind of business is it, what are the variables, etc., etc., and we just go into the deliverable straight without actually having a conversation on can there be a more structured approach to business modeling. We just directly go into the deliverable and start building out the model. Of course, I won't say that is a wrong approach, but over a period, we have actually realized One second. Just hold on. Sorry. Hello. Huh. I put it in the webinar group. Yeah. Okay. So generally when the conversations, we directly start building the business model without actually seeing whether, and we start developing conversations as and when we start building the model. So that's why we came across this concept of a business model canvas. Now a canvas, I think we have had previous sessions in BVA as well, but as a team and as an organization, we have seen a lot of what do you call productive conversations when we build a financial model through a business canvas. What does it help us do? It helps the person who drives the engagement have a better control of the various facets that needs to be considered. Second, it enables the stakeholder alignment. So example, if a promoter is coming and actually providing us basing the requirement for having to build a business modeling, he gives information in what you call short spurts, where he say, okay, our revenue stream, this is the product we are building, this is the revenue streams, these are the associated costs and everything. But there is no we never have a complete conversation where we understand the whole process, capsulate everything, so everybody is on board as to what we are building and what are the various key areas have we looked at it and analyzed it. So the canvas is a fantastic point to have a start point conversation for a business modeling exercise, so that the team who is building, the promoter stakeholders who's looking at it, and also sometimes even the investor who's looking at it, are all on the same boat with regard to, they are aware as a one snapshot view as to how the strategic business plays out and how it is going to be implemented across the various elements in a financial model. So that's why we realize the real importance of a business model canvas, so that it captures all the key elements and it works like a checklist for you to see, have you done the revenues, have you done the cost, have you considered all aspects of actually implementing or making sure the product is built. All those facets are captured in a single business canvas. So that's why we wanted this conversation point of business modeling along with a business canvas, so that it can be a more holistic approach to the entire financial modeling exercise rather than doing it in spurts. In most of the assignments, what we have realized is we go through the whole exercise, build out the model, and last time we say, okay, can this pocket could have been addressed better? What could have been a change in scenario if your customer target segment is changed? What are the implications and what are the associated costs? These are like more like an afterthought. But the business canvas ensures that it is not an afterthought, but is a prelude to the whole concept of business modeling, rather than we figuring out later. Because changing something in the model after you've built it out fully is an absolute difficult aspect. Like most of you would have understood, it just prolongs the engagement and it doesn't help you close the engagement. So that's why we thought, okay, why not we start a conversation for business modeling from a business canvas, see how it actually embeds itself into a financial modeling exercise, and what are the important outcomes or important insights that you get from a business modeling, which is very critical for all stakeholders who are involved in this entire business modeling exercise. So this is where we are going to split the webinar as the following four main elements. Now we all know why a financial model is important, because a financial model captures all your underlying assumptions and ensure that your strategy is put into readable numbers and you are able to measure what are the outcomes under different situations or at different time period, so that your earnings are monitored, where you have deployed funds are monitored, and all the underlying assumptions becomes very dynamic. Where you change something, it automatically has a impact on the value or an outcome that you have created. So this is, we all know what it is. Now, what is a business model canvas? This is something that I want to delve a little deep into in terms of we have always talked about how narration and the numbers will always have to align. So we talk something in terms of this is what we want to create, but is that what is actually getting converted? And is that what we actually see in a financial model has to be in tandem. Otherwise, the conversations and the way you pitch or way you sell is different. And what is actually coming up in a fully built out metric is completely different. Then the alignment is very tough to explain. So everything needs to be tandem. And the important part is the narrative. And the narrative is what the strategy and the way you implement, which gets captured as part of the canvas. Now, it also provides a main mechanism for any type of risk assessment that you need to do. So, for example, what would be the cost of, what are the key elements? What is the cost of creation of a product? What would be the impact if I access a particular segment? What would be the drivers associated with it? If can I have a cost unit matrix which is built out for the particular exercise, which makes sense, and does it actually justify what we are trying to build out? If you do a scenario analysis, what are the changes that we have? This is, if you put so much money, this is what I can create. But if you increase it and give me a staged money basis, what is the further investment where I can apply the funds and how the money would actually grow? So all these aspects of the narrative that we create will have to be part of your business canvas strategic map. Now, there are main 9 areas which is part of a business canvas. And as you see, the center of it is the value proposition. Now, what is a value proposition is how is it that you are different, or how is it that you are compared to the other people in your sector or in your competitive landscape? The entire, when you do a pitch deck where you say, what is the problem? How do we solve it? This is what is the value proposition that you need to concentrate for the creation of the business canvas. Now, this value proposition is the central metric around which every other metric works towards. For example, you have the value proposition and the problem you solve decides who your customer segments are. What is the manner in which you will be servicing that particular customer? How is it that you're going to approach that particular customer segment? What are the different channels we can explore? For example, if you say it is a B2B delivery, the sort of revenue metric that you have would be more focused enterprise solution, and you would be working on a certain licensing fee or a certain metric which is specific to a customer segment which is B2B. When you go to a B2C, it is more of a volume game. In a B2B, it can be more of a value add game, but in a B2C, typically what we see is that the market, you start in the market, you have other entrants who also add to the market. So it becomes sort of a exercise where everything has to be addressed. So pricing becomes very, very critical. Your gross margin will be on strain. Your focus on spending for ensuring that the segment is catered to in the form of marketing cost will also be very high. So these are the different types of impact that value proposition is going to have in on a customer segment or your customer relationship or your channel. So, and then if you define what is your customer segment, your relationship, what is your channel, then immediately what comes out of the whole metric is your revenue streams. You are able to categorize what are the different modes of revenue that are going to be there. What is your pricing strategy? What is the frequency? What is the diversity? What is the net margins that you can do? All those gets completed if you complete this entire customer segment. Similarly,
Can I interrupt?
yes, Kushbu.
Yes, I was asking that this you are saying it is good, but how to put it in Excel? Like when
I
we
will show
make
you that. I will. So I want you to understand what a canvas is so that we can deep dive into each of these items into how it goes
we
into
have
an
to
Excel.
build different sheets where we'll put the assumptions, the approach, then the
Perfect.
final model will come.
Yes, yes. But unless you have this sorted, You cannot go and build that financial model. So when you start a financial model, right, you would just start with one metric, which is revenue. Okay, you would have say, I will take you through an illustrative example where you understand it better, but it might not be the only stream of revenue. When you start working with the management, you realize there are multiple stream of revenue. There can be a main stream of revenue and there can be other ancillary sources of revenue. But that conversation, if you have the first conversation with the client, right, and you just start building in your Excel saying that this is the revenue, it is sort of decided between both of you. That is the only conversation. You're not thinking beyond, okay, can there be something more? Have we not addressed it? So we are waiting for a client input that is coming rather than we also being contributed to a conversation, if you understand what I mean. We are just
Yes.
taking input, processing, and we are
Yes.
actually putting it out. But when you have a joint conversation, you can come up with an option, say that, okay, you are actually doing this targeted segment of customers who are all B2C. Now, can I use the database that is created out of it into an ancillary stream of revenue? The customer, the client may have thought about it, may not have thought about it, but it opens up more of an idea into, this is my core strategy, these are the ancillary strategies which can align to it, so that conversation is enabled through a business canvas. That's what we are trying to capture here. Okay.
So I am working now on a one like not working it's not started, but I have got one assignment regarding the hospital. They are creating one hospital.
Ha.
So hospital with medical college. So
Okay.
construction is being started. So now I have to derive the
Then
value.
fantastic. So
Many thing
this
is there.
this is a great point, because you just got the engagement now. It is
Yes.
easy for you to build this. Now, in your case, it is a hospital plus your medical care center. That's how it's usually aligned when they
They are
want to build out.
I had a meeting with them
Huh.
yesterday. They told me something, so I suggested them that this can be the expenditure, this can be the revenue. So now
Huh.
I will learn like how to put that
No,
into.
exactly. Now, in fact, we have taken an illustrated example which is based on what do you call, rehabilitation care. So it can be a
Okay.
good start point for you. So the reason why I'm saying is that we have done multiple assignments on business modeling where we have realized that sometimes it drags into months. It getting a closure on the assignment becomes very, very tough, because suddenly the client comes back and says that, oh no, you have not considered this, can you include it as part of the business model as well? So how do you push back and tell them, right? If you had a more structured approach, right, you can demonstrate to the client, saying that, see, we discussed the entire strategy and this is how we built it. If you want a few variations on the strategy, I can go and build it for you additionally. But you can't keep changing the whole strategy exercise every time, right? Then it is an endless, because first investor, it will be a certain conversation, you would have built something. For a second investor, it would have just pivoted with no purpose, and your engagement is still open because you're still trying to facilitate for that particular client. By the time you would have engaged for 1.5 months, then beyond that it becomes an emotional connect with the client rather than a mere pricing requirement. You can't say
Yes.
no, and it
But
is like you just huh.
the second investor may be a strategic investor where synergy will work, and
Exactly.
the whole core business may shift with this new investor
Yes.
coming in the picture.
So at that point in time, when you have a canvas, you can demonstrate to the client, see, first, this is what we started out to do, and this is how we had done it. Now the conversation is changing. Now you can demonstrate your efforts to the client. He will say, no, it is just one metric. You want to change it. It is very easy. You add one, you put one costing, done, and solve. For him, it is simple. But you have created something like a house of cards. You pull out one, the whole thing actually collapses. He will never understand, because every meeting he will say, you bring the Excel. He will not have control over the Excel. You will be the one who's actually running the conversation. So the canvas on a professional side also helps you demonstrate to the client that this is what is the common conversation we have. Based on this conversation, this is what we have built. If there are multiple conversations, it is changing. If you change your segment, automatically everything around it changes. That means it's another rework for me. You'd be able to demonstrate to them better. Okay, that's the whole purpose. Now, just like how we have on the customer side, which is your customer segment, relation channels, and the revenue streams, you have also the cost. You have a value proposition, you know to whom you want to deliver a certain value. But what is the cost of delivering the value? How do you go about delivering that value? For example, in Kushbu's case, she said she wants to set up a hospital plus an educational facility. Now, both are two separate P&Ls that you need to work on. The concept of a hospital would require you to get your licenses. You need to have a concept of how many bedded hospital it has to be, because there would be certain requirements which work around so many beds is the minimum for this size of a education institution,
They have
etc.
prepared this in phase 1, how many beds, phase 2.
Phase
But
2,
we
how it is.
have to
So,
do for consolidated, na, not the
correct.
separate.
Not separate. So you will have, but you will be able to approach it as, okay, you have two different streams which you need to build out in a financial model. How do you approach it? Both those streams are, though interdependent, it is, you need to build out the cost and revenue metrics for it independently. And you will have to sort of merge P&L A with P&L B and cash flow of A with cost flow of B. And each will help in creating an enterprise cash flow. But this conversation will not happen unless you know, okay, these are the requirements which in an education sector, this is the value proposition you need to do. For giving that sort of a value proposition, what are the alliances I need to create? Do I need to have affiliations for anything? Do I need to have strategic, what do you call, regulatory requirements which are mandatory? What are the key aspects that I need to do? What are the key activities I need to start doing today in order to ensure that down one year or 1.5 years, when the project is starting to work, am I creating the value proposition what I started out to do? All the key requirements in terms of partnerships, resources, activities for creating the value is all captured as part of the left limb, which is your key activities, resource, partnerships. Predominantly, most of it is a cost factor, either in the form of an OPEX or it is in the form of a CAPEX. So all these are aspects that we need to consider. How does it fit in into your cost structure? So this is how I have tried to kind of bifurcate it as couple of them which has a huge impact on revenue. Some of it, like a customer relationship or a customer servicing channel, will also have some amount of associated cost because marketing or a distribution for generating that revenue. But all the costs for creating a value proposition, I've captured it on the left side, on the key partnership, resources, activities, etc. So this is what is a whole business canvas, and why I say, based on experience, I've seen that you start a conversation with the canvas and you have a better hold on the financial model that you're creating rather than without the canvas. So I will tell you the way we have evolved in terms of we started out with just having all the notes on a financial model. Then we realized that day one, month one, we are all in control, we are okay. Then we have multiple other deliverables. Somebody comes in, somebody goes out, and it's very difficult to keep track of the model because the one who creates is the one who is actually having absolute control over that particular model. Then we realize that every time there is an evolution in the model, I have to go back and explain to the one who's going to take over, saying that this is what you are going to create, this is the industry, etc. So what we did, we started doing an interim mechanism on a PPT where we say these are the critical activities, these are the critical flowchart. This is how the process will be. This is how it will be implemented. For implementing, these are the key items and these are the cost associated with, and used to keep track. And we used to keep also a conversation going with the management so that there is always clarity what they are telling, what we are listening. Both are in tandem and there is no ambiguity in it.
It would take like 7 to 10 days, ma'am. So
7
many
to 10
things.
days. No, 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 no. That is not even first draft. If you want to do a deep dive business
This
modeling,
is only the financial modeling part. Then comes the valuation part.
correct. So typically what we have seen is for a first cut draft of a financial model, if you are a person who has been doing modeling quite some time, you can kind of get to a first cut of the model with complete having a canvas ready by probably 10 to 14 days. Okay, it's a bare minimum first cut. Okay, That is just you're touching the layer, first one. Why I will tell you that iteration happens, okay? Sometimes it is over optimistic. Sometimes you realize that no, there is a requirement for this metric. It is not aligned to my industry metric. You are doing some sort of a revenue mechanism which is giving you huge
These structures
operating.
should commensurate with this time,
Correct. So
obviously.
you suddenly you will be like one among humans, but you will have the superpowers of probably Iron Man when you actually demonstrate it in a financial model. Then you will be like somebody has to bell the cat, right? And when you are a financial model who building person, you will actually do that sanity check with the client saying that, gee, this is your value proposition, right? But there are so many peers in this whole industry who are actually doing the same thing. If they have been around and they are doing a certain margin, you tell me how different are you to your peers. So that sort of conversation and clarity on value proposition, right? Is there a real USP? Are we something are we building a new Taj Mahal or a variant, or are we actually building only an apartment? You should have that clarity. That comes out during this.
थोड़ा भरे रहते यार दीवान सुविधा रहे क्यों
Sorry? Okay, I just think it was unmuted by
तो हाथ
mistake.
बोलो तो वो झलका सही है तो भारी
Okay. Now, so as Kushbu was mentioning, if I have to have a conversation which is only in English on it, it doesn't actually solve your purpose, because the idea for me when I actually thought of this particular session is how to go ourselves beyond the best. 1 second, sir. Can you mute yourself?
Ishwarlal, you have to mute.
You
Mr.
can mute,
Ishwarlal,
yes.
अपेक्षी धूल उठ रही ज्यादा यार
Mr. Ishwarlal, you have to mute.
अच्छा पत्तियां पोस्ट करने
Ravichandran sir, you can mute him.
Yeah, 1
You are-
minute.
Yes. Yes. Continue, ma'am.
Yeah, perfect. So, I thought when we have read what a canvas is, we have read the revenue side of it, segments, what are the channels you're going to do it, cost metrics, etc. Now, it can be in English, but unless I run a illustration with you, it will for you. What your takeaway will be only the metric, which is your in terms of, okay, this is a concept. Then you will have to further think and then see how you can actually implement the concept for your business modeling exercise. So I thought, why not take a industry which is quite easy to simulate and see how we can work around it. So I actually picked up a rehabilitation care, which is focused mainly on orthopedic care. So you have a full set of acute care treatment integrated. You have one facility in place. That particular facility also works like a home care center, because as we see, when you have a broken bone or an accident victim that happens, the recuperation time is not immediate. And if you have to spend your entire time in your hospital where you underwent a surgery, the bill is like massive. You can't continue staying for a month in that place. And for them also, they don't get much return on that particular bed that is occupied. So most of these big hospitals have an intermediate care center sort of thing where they say, okay, the main part of the surgery, etc., is over. Now, how can we funnel these clients into another place where it is a little easier on their pocket? They get a very focused care which is specific for physiotherapy or any other alternative treatments that is required. Then how do we, and the kind of duration for their recovery is like probably even a month. I have seen a lot of family members who have had like gone through hip replacement, and then for them to get completely back to a certain level where they are able to manage on their own, it takes a longer time because you have a constant need for physiotherapy. And with people working, etc., it becomes very difficult for managing from the house. So what they generally have is they generally are part of these activity, what do you call this, assisted facilities, rehabilitation facility, where they stay for about 14 days, 21 days, or even a month, and get to a certain level of mobility where they are able to go back to their own space on a full basis and handle themselves easier at home. So that is the purpose for these kind of centers, which are like a rehabilitation centers. Now, in a rehabilitation center, what we have is that the experience for that particular rehabilitation center will have to be good in terms of it has to be customer centric, and the value proposition will have to be care, will have to be the focus. The kind of people aligned in terms of physiotherapy and assessment for that particular center is very, very critical. You need to have constant paramedical staff who are there round the corner. And because these also extend out to the home services, some of them, what they also do is they provide home care services where they say that, okay, at home, you need a physiotherapist to come and help you for a certain time. Why can't we give you that kind of support? So they have a physiotherapist deployed on an extended basis for another 2-3 months who comes regularly for a month for every day. Or sometimes it is even a home care facility. If you have not fully recuperated, you need an elder person has a fall, needs help. You need a home care aide who is actually deployed at home for a longer duration. So these are the kind of emerging metrics for this particular rehabilitation center, how the sector is now currently working. So we thought we will take that as a particular, as a basis. And typically what we have seen is that you have first center and you provide a sort of an excellence in that particular center, and you have created a model which you, once you have an excellence set out for one center, and you have created a brand visibility for that center, you can replicate that center into multiple places, which automatically is a brand building exercise and is an increasing revenue, because it's a no-brainer for you. One particular care center, if you're able to establish, for you to go and replicate the SOP across multiple places is a no-brainer. And there is a need in the market for such type of centers. So I'm going to sort of deep dive into how this rehabilitation, why I'm giving you so much of backstory with regard to this is that, see, it is a narrative. We need to understand how that particular industry works, how it is actually funneling, it is actually getting a funnel from another industry, which is a larger hospital. Then who are the people who are to be the targeted audience for this particular care service? So it sort of, the narrative builds out the entire canvas for you in terms of what are the different elements that you need to see and build out in order to create this whole business canvas. So I will just move forward with this industry illustration. Now let's start creating the how the canvas can be created. Now, what is a value proposition? Now, value proposition is what is that particular problem that you are actually trying to solve. Now, when you say you are an care center facility, right, which is predominantly focused on a particular what do you call ortho care or something like that. In for example, in I can draw instance from our medical city in Tamil Nadu called Coimbatore, where we have multiple sort of hospitals that are there. You have the Ganga, which is like a pure orthopedic surgery and intense area. And then you have one thing called as a royal care, which is actually focused on trauma, accident care, physiotherapy, all those needs. That's where they fit into it. Though a Ganga is more like what do you call a bigger hospital, and also sometimes combines into an educational for a PhD association and all that. For a person to be there completely and get completely recuperated is a difficult process. So a place like a royal home, royal care, which is a smaller proposition, and it's a focused service to that particular sector and longer period of stay and lighter on pocket, helps to transition one from a bigger hospital to a smaller hospital. Now what happens here is the quality of service becomes the main focus. Are you able to render them a good quality service? What do you mean by a quality of service? It's the experience, because somebody has to go stay there for 14 days or even at 21 days or a month. That means that place should be worthy of staying. You should be thinking that, okay, I have to stay there. Am I, at least my basic requirements are considered there? The kind of interactions with people there, the care facilitators, how are they having those conversations? All those also decides for you to prolong your stay in that particular. Differentiate yourself from your average customer. So the customer's question would be that, why should I pick you? That would be a very simple question that you have. So One is I have created good brand awareness where he thinks, okay, this care is required. The first thing comes to me is my name. So he wants to enroll here. Second, I have actually been funneled from the hospital itself. And that is a metric for me to say, okay, this hospital is referring me. So I am going to come here and all those patients come here. But how do you ensure that that hospital refers you? You need to give that sort of a service which is quite outstanding from everybody else, so that there is always a constant conversation with the main orthopedic in that particular hospital. You need to have those kind of what do you call mechanism whereby even that particular doctor who has seen has to look at your records. There should be a seamless availability of records for him to see whether it is in line with the requirements of care. Then pricing has to be very lighter on the pocket, because somebody is moving from a bigger hospital chain to you. The reason is that it's predominantly is because they don't need that kind of care. So it has to be affordable on the purse, because it is a longer stay period rather than shorter procedure service. So this sort of understanding how the sector, who are the competitors, is becomes a very important point for discussion for us to say, if you want to price your product at a certain value, it has to be because of a certain service delta you're bringing in, or somewhere it has to align with what your market players are offering. So you should be able to compare yourself to it. Now, where you get this kind of services? So in our case, what we have said is, for if it is an ordinary rehabilitation center, anybody can come and anybody can go. So how do I actually create a USP for myself? I say I have a high quality center where my what are the assessment when a person comes in and when a person goes out, the outcomes have to be measured. How fast was the recovery? What was a team able to create? This is how he was when he started it, when we came into a center. We were able to achieve this level of mobility after this period. So that is an operating metrics you're able to define yourself. Now, why is that operating metrics defined? Is because your average length of stay in that particular center will get determined from this. So if you're able to say that a person can have a complete cure, 90% cure, if the person stays with you for 21 and you have past experience, that is a sell point for you, for your next customer. Say that, see, it was this sort of a procedure and we were able to achieve this, and demonstrate your USP. Second, there are a lot of mechanisms you can have, which is like a teleconsult. Even if after the person goes from your center, you will have an operating metrics where you say, are you monitoring what are the key parameters for that person? You can create a dashboard for them, call up on a regular basis, and also you can provide extended facilities for moving to home. So providing like a home care aid or any other facility aid at home, you ensure that you are still keeping tab of that patient even after they left, so that there is a good referral, or it is still converting to you in the form of certain consultation or physiotherapy needs or a home care need, and your ancillary revenue also continues as part of this transaction. So that is where I wanted to sort of say, when you have this conversation itself, let it be like a narrative to see, by having this conversation, okay, I know my main revenue is considered. Have all my ancillary streams also considered. So a value proposition will help you capture all those ancillary streams also. And see, because of this, am I able to price better? Or because of this, I'm able to get a revenue which is higher than a normal revenue. So these kind of conversations and filling out your revenue metrics and who's your targeted customer comes out from defining your value proposition. So that is why it is important. So another thing that is part of this value proposition, which we generally do, is that everybody, their business idea is the standout idea. But how do you create that sort of a sanity check? That sanity check happens only in the sense that because of this value proposition, you go back to the sector and define key metrics in that sector and make a comparison for us to move forward. One second. Now going forward to the customer segment. So who are your main customers in this? So here it is trauma or orthopedic care, and then the elderly who are there, and also the families who are seeking extended care. Now, your customer segment, what does it help? It also helps you define where do you get your customers from. For example, if it is an elderly, you can say there are so many assisted livings that are there for old age homes and those kind of active living that they have. That can be an automatic arrangement for you to tag on to. Then if it is an accident victims, any sort of a big hospital, your vicinity of where your hospital needs to be can be based on this. Or if it is an extended family or anything, it can be a more of a referral. If you align yourself to multiple orthopedic surgeons or any orthopedic consultants, then your referral network from people from those consultants would be higher. So your customer funnel in terms of what is that segment, of that segment, how much I'm able to convert and capture, and how much will be my total revenue by converting each of these segments and having a focused approach to the segment, you would be able to consider and build out your revenue stream. Now, the customer relationships is that sort of how do you have a certain relationship for delivering that care. It can be individualized care, or it can be progress reporting, loyalty programs, or a health monitoring systems. So when you have these kind of customer relationships you are going to build out, all these customer relationships are not often a simple customer relationship in terms of English, because there is also an associated cost for delivering this, ensuring these kind of retention happens. For example, if you want to have a loyalty program in place, you need to have a proper ERP system which actually captures who is referring to you and how often that stay is, etc. You need to have a system in place. Then you need to have a HMS which will actually provide you all these data dashboards for easy interactions. You would be able to see your customer profile, who are the type of people who are there. So you need to have a robust HMS which will provide you all these database. So that cost of investment in a HMS becomes very, very critical for you to cater to a customer relationship. And then you will have to have what you call telemedicine, and somebody to call them up regularly and check are their requirements taken care of. How do you ensure that they can have a easy contact for them to call us up even after they move home in case for any physio needs or etc. can be converted. So those conversions are also possible only if you have a robust system in place, so that you keep tracking that particular customer even post discharge. So these customer relationships, though it's a concept, there is also cost associated for maintaining that particular relationship. Now, what are the channels in which you're going to get it? So this is like a funneling mechanism for you in terms of training. Okay, I'm picking up a care center in a particular area. In my vicinity, what are the different hospitals? Example, you're not going to have a person who's coming from Bannergeta on to Hebal unless you can define that that particular ortho in that particular Hebal area is going to create a life altering this thing for you, or he is a family person who's known to you for long and he is settled there. There is no requirement for you to move from your locality to a different locality. So you would be looking at care centers or any other care centers which is around your home, so that transitioning to home also becomes possible. So our channel where we are going to establish would determine what are the different hospitals in that pocket, who are the different orthopedists who are there, are there any elder care organizations around that, old age homes, etc., whom we can latch on to and say that can we run a campaign regularly at your place, so that people create that awareness that we have these kind of recuperation centers. Then insurance providers. So all these are different mechanism for you to access that particular channel. Now, why do you need channel? Because if you have to tap into a hospital, all these channels has a certain cost which is associated for acquiring that particular customer. Just like how customer relationship is retaining a customer, the channels would define the cost of acquisition of that particular customer, and that becomes a very key metric in your financial modeling to define what is the cost of care plus cost of acquiring the customer and what is your impact on profitability. any change in any of this would have a huge impact. So defining all these channels is also becomes very critical. Now coming to all these build out will define what are the different revenue streams that are actually associated with it. For example, the main one, which is your they give it everything like a package now, which is your room rent plus certain amount of therapy plus your consultation. You need to go do that kind of have a conversation in terms of either medical data which is available, and also in terms of what is your other center who's charging you. You need to have awareness as to how is your pricing different from the other pricing. All the diagnostic services, have you considered therapy costs, what is the pharmacy, what are the other ancillary revenue that can come out of this. You can have a home care services, doctor consultation, can you have any subscription for monitoring devices, can you have any variables you can sell it. For example, if it is a cardio center, you can have a holder. Some people have a 24-hour monitoring to see any variations. So those kind of variables are automatically linked to a platform data where the doctor is able to see have they in the last 24 hours based on this recording, are there been any changes. So this can become, now everybody has an Apple Watch that also has a certain monitoring impact. So wearable has become part of our existence where we are tracking our vitals at all point in time. Now can that be sold as a product itself as part of a discharge? Can we add it up so that you give an experience to that particular client saying that if you build that variable from us, we can directly connect it out to our dashboard where the person who's a caregiver has full visibility as to what are the changes in your vitals and how you're doing at any point in time. It can even give a trigger point for anything. So those are the things, our conversations based on your USP will help you decide what is your main revenue items and what are the ancillary revenue items. Now, this is one segment of it. Now, we have covered customer acquisition, retention, what are the channel partners, what are the revenue streams which are associated. Now, for you to deliver that, what are the costs that you need to keep track of? So, these key activities are the actions that the company must take to ensure that the value proposition is delivered to the customer. What is it? First of all, you need to have a good facility. You need to set it up in the right location. You need to have all the regulatory approvals in place. How is the care going to be delivered? How many people are going to be there? Who is your chief medical officer for that place? Do you have to have an ambulance? What do you have to have a dashboard for any specific customer experience for communication with that family of that particular customer? So they get into it, they understand that this is what is the care that has been provided to your to the patient at any point in time without actually coming there physically, asking the staff, okay, what has been provided to him, has there been any change in medication. Everything is captured in a dashboard, then immediately they can just access it. So that would require for you to have a good robust IT systems. So do you need to have telehealth? Can they create appointments with the caregiver who have been there? Can they record appointments online itself? That means you need to have a good IT system in place, deploy it, which is also linked to your HMS system so that whatever is there is recorded as one part of the ERP ecosystem. Then all those aspect key thing which is your USP, you need to deliver that value to the customer. You break it out into all those items that you need to have to identify the cost associated with these key activities. That is a great point for you because this cost is not normally only OPEX or CAPEX. It is a combination of both. And sometimes it could be just a cash outflow in a deposit for rental, etc. But you need to identify the different items that needs to be as part of this conversation. Now, this is one. Then key resources. You need to have adequate resources. For example, you need to build out an assisted care facility. You will not do it all in one single dose. You will say, okay, say that you're going to build up 100 bed. Day one, you're not going to have people occupying those 100 beds. You might do it in a phased manner where you might say, first year, I will build out, say, I will build it out to 40% capacity. I will do 40 beds. Second stage, I will keep it ready for 60 so that my occupancy will improve. I will see how it is. And there will be a certain threshold point where I want to actually build it out to that 100 bedded hospital. So this threshold point can happen based on your metric when you populate itself. Do you need 100 beds at the start of it? Can it be a stage 1? This is the bare minimum I need. Subsequent stage 2, stage 3, you can do an addition to your capex. All those aspects that you need. Even your hiring plan need not be, you can't have the whole unit available with you for starting the facility. You will have a bare minimum that you need to start with. Then your hiring plan sort of steps up based on your occupancy. That helps you decide the kind of care, the kind of therapist you need to take. All that will evolve. So this key resources has a huge impact on fixing your one of the important cost in this particular sector, which is your what do you call people cost, and who are very critical for providing that particular care. Just 1 second. Sorry. Okay, so these are the key resources that is required. And the other one is the key relationships that you need to have aligned for ensuring this is all in place, which could be your hospital tie-ups, your local clinics, your suppliers for medical equipments, your distributors for pharmacy, any of the diagnostic labs that are there, any HMS creators, any old age homes that you can do. All these are your partnerships that you need to do. Why do you need to align all this is because each of these partnership has a certain cost associated with it. For example, a medical device supplier will actually help you get your best quote. So you can't, though you can build out a certain value, when you finally go to implementing it, you need to get quotes from multiple peoples to enable this conversation. So that helps you determine who are the key, what are the medical suppliers you need to align to. Then clinics, you will have a certain amount of referrals that has to go out. Orthopedists and hospitals also, you will have certain tie-ups and cost of having those tie-ups. And HMS, you need to build out the cost. So all this actually helps to identify all those costs. Now, all those key activities, key customer, all these actually culminate into your entire cost structure for enabling this value proposition, which could be all your what do you call fixed costs as well as all your variable costs. All these got to build out into your cost structure. Now, this whole conversation has helped you touch upon all aspects of your financial modeling, which is your revenue metric, cost, your cash flow inflows, your what do you call all your fixed costs, how much is your build out, etc. All these are an input for you in your financial modeling build out. So that's why I said it is important to have a business canvas so that you can start building out in the right way, where everybody understand, okay, we have considered all these aspects, and then you are able to build out the particular plan. So now let's see how do you integrate each of these items into your financial model. Now I'd like to call upon Vijay, if you can take it forward, because Vijay has been with me for the last 3 years, and for us, both of us together, it's been a beautiful experience in terms of building financial model. So our presentation today is a sort of culmination of all our experience we've had together in terms of building out these model, and we've practically seen these revisits of conversation. So we wanted to sort of break it down only for this purpose. Vijay, you take over.
Yes, I'll take over. Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I have just requested for allowing my screen to be presented. If you can please allow. The host has to allow me. Ma'am,
Vijay?
yeah, now it's possible.
You're able to?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
I hope my screen is visible now. Is it visible? Can I continue?
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. So thank you, Mythili ma'am. So now whatever Mythili just told us about what these 9 aspects or 9 value propositions or 9 elements of a business model canvas are. Now, as a lot of people are waiting to see how actually all of this culminates into an Excel sheet. So that this is the part where we are going to put all of this together into an Excel. So now we must all be wondering, why was these 9 whatever items we discussed were important today. So just to have a small this thing, from a business canvas, what we build is an assumption sheet. So just to take an example, let's say I have key relationships, I have key activities, all of these come up with a cost. So that will make my cost line items. I have my customer segments, customer relationships. Those constitute my revenue line items. So the whole canvas first comes into an assumption sheet or assumption table. And then whatever value proposition or whatever product I'm going to deliver will become my revenue. And then I will go and create this revenue matrix by linking it to the customers. Let's say in a particular example that we have taken, that's an ortho care. The customers will mostly be accident victims or people, old age people who have recently undergone surgery. And then channels effect on the cost, that what channels am I using to bring in my customers or deliver my value, again goes to the cost. Customer relationships, as Mythili already told, you need to maintain relationships. That can be a personal one, or it's something like you always check upon, like a follow up that you do, that again comes as part of the cost, and that helps in developing your revenue. And then revenue streams, once you complete all of this, your revenue is ready. And then I have all the key resources. The first key resource we all have to factor in when doing a model is the human resource. So that comes up with the cost. And then all other operating expenses, that's OPEX. And then another resource is setting up the care or setting up all the required facility, that's the CapEx. And then key partnerships. Let's say when I say partnerships, it can be a marketing partnership, it can be a partnership in terms of let's say somebody is giving me some technology that can make my cost saving, like bring in a cost saving or make my work much easier. And then this whole exercise completes my cost structure. So in step 6 we will reach to the whole revenue structure. And then by the end we come to the step 9, we will have both revenue and cost structure ready. So this is how whatever we learned till now sort of comes into an Excel sheet. So now what are the key metrics we are going to see? So now keeping this assisted care or ortho care aside, let's just say that I'm going to do a model for a simple manufacturing entity. So there are few line items that we normally think of. We will just see number of customers and how much, let's say how many units a customer normally orders, and what is the pricing that I'm doing per unit. The same way when it comes to an assisted care, it's going to be like RPOB. What is RPOB? Average revenue per occupied bed. I'll be going to, I'll teach you, or rather tell you how this whole thing works in detail once I go to the next slides. And then occupancy, the whole game of a care unit depends on its occupancy. So now I can have a 20 bed care, 100 bed care, but my revenue, my cost drivers, everything depend on how my occupancy pans out. And then average length of stay, as it was discussed earlier, normally for cases where an ortho rehab or something, ortho care is required, it will generally pan out between 3 weeks to 1 month, or like 3 to 4 weeks. So, and then the number of the increase in the average length of stay will in turn increase the revenue. And then revenue mix. So when I say revenue mix, in ortho itself, there can be different conditions. So now I can have a simple accidental care that can, the care required for that person would be much lower than a person who is old and has gone through a major surgery. So the deployment of resources, let's say I need to deploy nurses or I need to give a specific room, in a good condition. So all of this will depend on a particular condition. Cost per occupied bed. Now, whatever I told, if I'm going to charge a revenue, I will also have a cost of running, running one bed. So if I just have to say a bed on an overall level, I will have some part of my rent that I have to apportion to that bed. I will have one nurse who is taking care of the patient on that bed. I'll have consumables that are required to take care of the patient. So when I put all of this together, I can get to something called as cost of one bed or running one bed. And then staff to patient ratio, very, very critical item, wherein we get the exact number of nurses required, the number of doctors to be onboarded, so that if I have to run a 20-bed facility, and let's assume that all the 20 beds are occupied, we say, okay, for every 3 patients, I need one nurse, or for every 10 patients, I need one doctor, and every shift, I need one nurse. So this is how it normally works. So the staff to patient ratio will help us determining the team costs. And size of the center, again, considering it's a 50-bed facility, your capex will be different. Considering it's a 100-bed facility, your capex, opex, everything will be different. And size of the rooms. Now, what normally we see is people are looking for, let's say, I take out or a 300 or a 400 square feet area, and then I divide it into 3 rooms. I just put a bifurcation and divide it into 3 rooms. And the same 400 square feet, if I say it's one room, then it is charged in a premium sector, and I say that's a premium room. So these small nitty-gritties on costing each room will also be a great difference. And then profit margins and EBITDA goes without saying that any business model or any business we look at, that's the first thing our eyes goes to. And then, so now keeping all this in mind, let's just assume that we are all going to meet the promoters of a care, assisted care or ortho care. And then how do we start the discussion? So now before going inside to that meeting, we all know what the 9 metrics of a BMC are. BMC, I mean business model canvas. And then I also know when I go to this person, I need to understand what are these costs. I want to know what are my team costs. I want to know how much is the revenue he is going to charge. So keeping all that in mind, I should also consider the fact that I can just go inside and that person can say, okay, I want to make an ARPOB or an average revenue per bed of 1 lakh. And when we do not know the data, okay, what actually is running in the market, we will probably see whenever we do a model, the first thing is whatever the promoter says, he will always build the best possible picture or the most optimistic picture of his business. But as valuers, as people, professionals who are doing the model, we cannot just take the numbers what they say. So now having some market insights will also make a great difference. So when I say market insights, so the data that is published here is based on a general search that we have done. So now if you see here, it says in India, an ARPOB normally ranges between 30 to 75,000. So when I say 30,000, it will be for medium or a little better cares, and 75,000 will be for most like a premium segment. And the same way, the profit margins or the contribution margins roughly, they range between 8 to 10%. And if there is some person who or some promoter who says that I want to do a 25% or a 30% margin, it is possible based on, let's say we are running the facility for the last 5 years. We have reached the economies of scale in terms of cost, and my occupancy is always around 80 to 100%. So then it might be true, but it doesn't work the same, because normally business models are done for early stage businesses in most of the cases, and in the first 2 to 3 years it's not possible to go beyond 8 to 10%. So that's about the market insight. So with all the 9 points that we already discussed that's specific to your business, it is that there is a 10th point that is not discussed about, that is the competitor data or the market data. And then how do we get market data? We've already had a lot of discussions. One is we normally suggest that, okay, go visit one of your competitors' center, just have a look at how they are charging, have discussions about what their packages are. And other than that, there is always a go-to strategy, that is published data that is available online. So now that we know what we have to expect from the promoter, we go inside and let's just say we start the discussion from what are the revenue line items. So coming to an assisted care or an ortho care, the main revenue items will be, one is main revenue items, that is the mainstream revenues, and there are ancillary revenues. When I say mainstream revenue, this whole care, or as Kushbu ma'am was asking before, let's just say this is a hospital. Now in the hospital, most of the things are similar. Let's say now the room rent. So per day, how much am I going to charge? Let's say it's a 2 sharing room, or it's a single room that's a premium one. So that is rate per bed night. So let's say I'm going to charge 10,000 per day. And then occupancy, and I assume if I have a 30 bed facility, I'm going to be having 50% occupancy. So that gives me number of beds that are occupied. And then average period of stay. So let's just say each person who comes into my facility normally stays for 30 days. So that gives me the matrix. I can say there are 15 beds that are occupied for a 30-day period. And then per day I'm charging 10,000. So that gives me the revenue per month. So that covers the main revenue, that is the room rent. And then considering it's an ortho care, we normally have physiotherapies, occupational therapies, wherein with people who have not walked for a long time, we normally help them walk. So all of these therapies come up with a cost. So again, let's say one person needs physiotherapy twice in a particular day. So now let's say out of all the 15, all 15 need 2 times therapies in a day. So we say 15 patients, and they need 2 therapies in a day. And one therapy normally costs around 1,000 rupees. So that gives me the revenue from therapies. So another line item checked. And then diagnostic care, normally there are 2 types of diagnostics. One is the routine checks that they check sugar, BP levels on a daily basis, which will come up with a small cost. And there are x-rays that have to be done on a periodical basis. Let's say if once in 10 days or once in 15 days. So let's say number of x-rays, all the 15 need 1 x-ray in a month. And we have 15 people, and per x-ray, I'm going to charge them 3,000 or 4,000 rupees. So that gives me the diagnostic revenue. And then pharmacy goes without saying that throughout the stay, we would be providing a lot of medicines, and it will also have consumable costs, like for all the syringes used, or for all the other equipments that are used for a particular patient. It will come as a revenue, because normally we are going to charge it in the total bill that we are giving to the customer. So now this part, now just assume that we are building an assumption sheet, which I'll be showing in the next few slides, how an assumption sheet looks like. So we have built the revenue that are main streams. Now there are other streams of revenue that come with this. Those are the ancillary ones. Now let's say food and beverages. Normally in a lot of those cases, they say the patient food will be provided within the hospital itself. And we normally don't allow the patient to be given outside food. So then let's say we charge the patient 300 rupees for 1 day. So for all the 30 days he stays, we will charge so much amount for all 15 patients. That is patient food revenue. And then in some certain cases, there are few things that attenders also who stay with the patient will need food. Some may come from a far off place where they also expect the hospital to give them the food. Again, we charge them. These are ancillary. And then home care service, that's like we provide home care. Just let's say the number of leads that are provided, and then services per day or a per month basis. How much, let's say we charge per month 10,000 rupees, and how many people are given this service. Doctor consultations. Now this doctor consultation that I am referring to is not the duty doctors that are going on rounds, because the duty doctor revenue will normally be as a package in the room rent that we charge. Now, let's say we have a specific condition that needs a doctor from an outside place to come and visit. So that's when, let's say, the doctor is charging 1,000 per consultation. So, and there are cases where somebody there are some of these cases also have an OPD wherein somebody who went from your care after they were healed comes back to have a general checkup, and in that moment we might have to charge them for consulting. So that's the consulting revenue. And as Mythili mentioned about the variables, now a lot of people for old age care, they provide all these watches or small tags that are always placed with the person, so that they monitor their heart rate and they monitor their locations. Where in case of patients who have Alzheimer's or something like that, these things make a huge difference. So again, let's just say we are selling some watch that has an app that is built in, so the cost of that will be my revenue. And then subscription to monitoring, these variables again come up with a specific subscription to an app or a software. Again, let's say we are outsourcing it and we are still charging it to the patient, so that's another source of revenue we get. So this has covered all the revenue items. One is the mainstream revenue that I told, that the whole purpose of setting this care is providing the care. It's not to earn a variable revenue or food revenue. The whole purpose of setting up this care was to provide the care. So the care revenue will always be the main revenue, and all other revenue will be normally optional or an ancillary revenue.
One thing to interject in why we have actually gone into these different line items is to give you a sort of an idea that for us it is not a single driver will multiply. It is not fair to say that if you have to say everything else is a percentage of the main revenue, it can be a starting point for you to build a model, but it is not a viable model because when you are closer to actually implementation, you will actually go to each line item and start setting context. No, this is too high. Why is this revenue is coming higher than this? Ideally, it will not. For example, you can align this either on a metric of a per patient basis or per day basis. So when you check the unit analysis on different basis, on a per bed basis, what is the cost, or a per patient basis, your whole metric will align. For example, you can't, if you have a diagnostic value which you have taken as a percentage of what do you call average billing for number of days, when you do a sanity check on a number per patient, that number can be as high as a 30 or 40%. But just because somebody is admitted, why would they have a diagnostic care like that? That may not be then you have to go and revisit your underlying assumption. Have you taken high? Because it is not every day you will have a diagnostic or every day you will have a therapy session. It would be patient specific and it would be in different weeks or over different days, 2 days and once 3 days. It need not be necessarily every day. So tagging that to your occupied bed per day rent could be a wrong exercise because it will throw up some other cost in terms of cost per patient. So you need to keep analyzing your unit metrics at different combinations to see whether the entire revenue that you are either getting per bed or on a patient basis actually aligns to a sanity check number. So that is why we say that build it into line items with different drivers for each of those line items.
Can I go forward? Okay. So coming to the cost part, so we have covered all the revenue items. Now let's just see how all of these revenues have a corresponding cost. So now again, coming back to the focus area of the care that is set up, that is providing the care for ortho patients or old patients with ortho conditions. So now the first and the foremost cost for caregiving will be the staff cost. As I already told you, one is like, let's say we have 10 patients. Normally we need 2 to 3 nurses. And in each shift, the nurses have to change. And then with nurses, there will be nursing aides. And for a group of nurses, there will be one lead of nurse who will take care of them. So that will give you the, all the costs of these nurses. And there is one chief medical officer. That person might be like the head of that care, who overlooks all of these activities, who is like the head of everyone. So now we have therapists. Again, depending on, let's say I'm giving physiotherapy, I'm giving occupational therapy, I will need specific experts who are therapists who come visit my care, provide that service and go. Again, normally, let's say I'm going to pay them based on number of therapy sessions they do, or rather I will have them on roll and have them permanently. That's much easier. And then the duty doctors who do the general rounds and keep a check on the patients. And the other staff, when I say staff welfare, normally this will include uniform costs, let's say staff food costs. At times you might have to provide for their travel where your center is very far off, or let's say you provide some cab facility. All of this will be the staff cost. Next, the main cost, another cost is the running the facility. Now, I am not talking about the capex part of it. I am talking about the opex. So let's assume that we already have a care that is set up. So one is that all the consumables, electricity, water, infrastructure costs, insurance costs, IT costs. Now, IT costs has become another, uh, non-ignorable part of all the costs. Admin and billing, most important again, we need somebody who tracks all the patients, maintains the data. Rental costs, I am assuming that we have taken this assisted care on a rented building. So the rental costs come, and that will be when we see the normal percentage of costs to the total cost, rental will be one of those major items. And then pharma and consumables, we had a pharma revenue there. So normally pharma and consumables, a lot of times we normally do it like a margin, because in pharma that is run in-house, we can normally expect around 30 to 40% margin. And diagnostic costs, again, when I say these are casual checkups that are done on a daily basis, these can be done in-house. When I say I need to get an X-ray or another bigger scan, it need not mean that I need to have that equipment set up inside my care itself. I can also use connections nearby my care. I can take my patient there and then charge the patient for that diagnostic tests. And then in turn, I will be paying my partner on how much ever the cost is. So even there we have a scope to earn small amount of margins. And then so now by seeing all of this, now we have covered the care costs, we have covered the pharma costs, we have covered the diagnostic costs. So all of these costs are directly related to running my care. Now there are again ancillary revenues that we spoke about, all the variables, food revenue and all of that. They come up with a cost. Now again, food will normally, we say we can outsource the food, wherein the people prepare it and then get the food here. And there are few cares that, okay, we do not want to do that. The quality might differ. So we prefer doing it in-house. So you have a team, let's say you have a head cook and you have two people who help him. So and then consumables, that's a food cost. And then visiting doctors that I already told for their consultations, if I am charging 1,000 rupees for patients, I can say around 700 to 500 rupees is what the doctor is charging me. Again, there is a scope of small margin even there. So this covers all the costs that are variable, or rather, those are variable and semi-variable that can be directly proportional to my revenue. But there are other costs which normally go like an apportionment or like an absorption. So now rental deposits that are given on the space utilized, and most of the times the rental deposit will be a refundable one. So we normally do not put it as a load on to the cost. A renovation of the space, let's say we take the building on rent and we spent a lot of money on renovation, that's a capex. And interior designing, because for a hospital there are certain things that has to be specifically designed. Just to take an example, we might need to give the rails on the steps. The lifts have to be such that a whole stretcher goes inside the lift, and the bathroom have to be designed specifically to suit the patients. So that is another cost. And then therapy and medical maintenance, therapy and medical equipments, that's physiotherapy equipments. We have all the beds, we have chairs, TV monitors. So a lot of other costs that will be required for setting up the care will all be part of depreciation. So we put all of this as a capex. And again, as Kushbu ma'am was saying before, these costs, the capex will never be done on one shot. So let's just say that to set up my whole care, I need 2 crores of equipments. This 2 crores I never normally deploy at once. So let's say if I have to start with, instead of a 30 bed, I will start only with a 10 bed facility. and only in one floor. And then I will deploy all the required materials only to service the 10 beds. And then going forward, let's say my occupancy reached a point where it is crossing the 10 beds. Then slowly I'll see, okay, next another 10 beds I'll do. So then, normally again, the model we build will always be on a monthly basis. So if I just say month one is when I'm going to launch, after let's say 6 to 8 months, if I'm going to increase to another 10% or 20%, that's when the other capex comes. So this 2 crore will normally be split around 12 to 18 months, wherein based on the occupancy rate, the capex also is increased. So that being said, all the capex that we take here will be amortized like a depreciation. That depreciation will also be loaded on, even in my income statement, it will be loaded on. And
Capex will be also in phases.
yes, capex has to be in stages. So there are two types. There are few things that you cannot escape. When I say rental deposit, you cannot escape giving it on day one.
Yes.
And there are, let's say, reception area. Let's say this is a ground floor where you are
Some
putting.
advance also we need to do. We need to give for the equipments and all. So
Correct.
that
So
will
there are
also be
few
capitalized.
equipments that you need to buy. Like let's say physiotherapy, you need a big machine. You
Hmm.
need to buy one. So even though there is only one patient or 10 patients, you need that one equipment. So you need to take it. But there are, let's say, beds. I need 20 beds. For now, I can buy only 10 beds. And whenever there is another 10 people, I can buy those beds. And all other equipment that are required to set up a particular room. So all of that can be done in stages. Okay. So that will be loaded on to the cost, like the equipments. And there is something called as one-time setup cost. When I say this one-time setup cost and regulatory cost, the most important thing coming to a hospital or a care will be all their licenses and approval that I have to get from a lot of authorities. So these things will be a significant amount of cost. And then let's say I am charging, let's say I'm going to incur around 20 lakhs on day one at launch, so that I need to get all my licenses in place to run this facility. I cannot charge that as a one-time line item in my P&L. That will not give a correct picture of my profits. So even that is treated like an apportionment throughout. Let's say this license is valid for the next 5 years. I will normally amortize that and add it to the cost. So this covers the cost line items. So now, before I go forward, I will just show the how a normal assumption sheet looks like. So I hope the Excel here is visible. So this is just an Excel sheet wherein we have built the model. So there is only simple thing. There's one is balance sheet, there is income statement, and there is cash flow. And if you have a look at it, we have done it on a monthly basis. And then we have the see now number of beds, let's just say 20 beds, number of patients that are coming in, and how much am I going to charge per day, and they'll give me my revenue. Then I say pharma revenue, normally it is taken like a percentage, or if you can go much deeper, because normally when the model starts, it will be like, okay, me just take 20% or 30% of my room rent will be my pharma revenue. But then once the model evolves, they will go to much granular detail and be like,
Pharma revenue here means the medical cost or the medicines.
Medicines, yes.
Okay.
Both consumable. That is, one is that the directly that is bought by the patient, and there are other things that are used
When they are admitted, what we give them?
Correct.
That medicine cost. Okay.
Correct. So you can also go on and say pharma revenue. See, normally what happens now, there are two types of pharma revenue. One is that if my pharma is open even for outsiders to come and buy, so then there's a different pharma revenue. That's like a retail revenue. But when I say whatever pharma I have is exclusively for the patient that I am treating, then normally it will be added on to the bill that I give to the patient. So one will be a consumable types and another will be like a outside sale type. So both can be factored in. And then, as I told you, revenue from food, I will say per day, I'm going to charge 300 rupees for all three meals. So that will be so many patients. And then consultations, treatments, or rather therapies that I say per therapy, I charge 1,000 rupees. And then so many therapies I'm doing, that will give me my revenue. And then going on to the cost, I've just put electricity, water, fire insurance, IT costs, food costs, whatever I discussed just now. We normally so the first step to do is that you list out everything. Normally, there is another a practice that Mythili ma'am and we follow, that we normally create a mind map first. So it's just like whatever thought comes to your mind, just create a mind map and start putting, let's say, a hospital, and your thought normally, okay, you will get 10 line items based on your thought. And now AI has made the life much easier, wherein I can go and say, give me all the line items of cost that can
We have to assume this cost, this line item, it will be that cost. We can assume
no, that
for
assumption.
all the line items and for the number of beds. It's care center, you're saying 10 to, but in my case, they will start with 200 beds at least.
Correct.
So I have
Correct.
to imagine like that and give a cost structure like that only.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's correct.
That's
And
where so when you charge per bed, no, you have to have an idea of how much Apollo is charging or any other
Yes.
mid-size hospitals there are charging, etc. You
So
do
how
your
much I
market
get
surveys
that
to say
data?
that number is not your promoter or you determined data. It can be a start point, but always go validate it.
No, how will I get the data? How Apollo or
so
any
that is
hospitals
All published.
market. That's what I told
publish?
you.
Okay.
Two types. One is the published data you use, or you ask the promoter, because the promoter, let's say he is also a doctor, he
Yeah.
will have
You will
enough
have the idea, yes.
he'll know how Apollo is doing. He would have done that before coming to us. Normally, they'll give us better insights on live exam. So this will give so now revenue and cost items is this is the build out of the assumption sheet. So now next is, now before I say that, okay, my care is up and running, I am already there. So there are few key activities that's again touching upon those 9 points that we spoke earlier. One is that setting up of the facility where you give the rental deposit, you have a rental cost that's running. Safety requirements and regulatory approvals, you need to take all the licenses, you need to have fire safety installed and insurances, appropriate insurances made. And then, so this assessment, what I mean is, let's say there is a patient who has gone through a surgery and comes into my hospital, and his condition in terms of numbers is 1 today or 2 today out of 20. And by the time, let's say he stays with me for 30 days, and when I assess, let's say, is he able to walk? Is he able to eat food? Is he able to, understand or perform better than what he was when he came inside my hospital? So let's say when he goes out of my hospital, it is 15. So that means when the person who came inside was at 2 has gone up to be better to go to 15 points out of 20. So you should have matrix in place. That normally what these people in hospitals do is they will create a matrix today. Okay, these are the line items that I'm going to check if my care, whatever I'm giving, is being effective. So you need to have that matrix so that you can, one is for your check, you have the data that, okay, if a patient comes to me, this is what I can deliver. What I can promise, you come in as 2 out of 20, I'll make you 15 out of 20. And that will be another value proposition, again, going to point 1 for you to say that whoever comes to me, let's say, is not able to walk, I'll ensure that they can do at least the daily work that they do on a normal basis. So that's one thing. And the physiotherapy, again, this being an ortho, the focus on the physiotherapy is much higher. And then customer support and follow-up team, the moment somebody goes out, it's good to have a customer relationship, again coming from the 9 propositions that we spoke about. Emergency readiness, we say in case of old age patients or critical conditions, what happens is the care will not be equipped to provide all sorts of, let's say, some sudden some situation came up where the care is not having the equipments or anything to treat. So it's very good. First thing is, normally these cares have to be set up in the vicinity of hospitals. And the second thing is, you have enough tie-up with this hospital that there is some condition, immediately you can move the patient to that hospital. So the patients or the attenders also have that confidence that, okay, so even if there is a condition, these people, I'm covered here. So those things will matter a lot. And family education is the most important thing in India. We know how people are. So normally the intention or the thing in the Indian people mentality is that, okay, if we go to the hospital, they will unnecessarily charge us money and they just make money and they're not going to provide anything. So and the whole amount of convincing that's required for the family to, let's say there is a father or there's a mother who is getting admitted and the whole amount of convincing that's needed for them to trust this care. We need to have a solid team to do that. So these things are, when I say, I just told 5 minutes before that when you launch, there are few things that you need to keep ready. These are those things that have to be there on day one. And then coming to a unit matrix. So this is something that's like the most important part. I can just go on and say my revenue is 10 crores, 100 crores, 50 crores. But then when it all comes down to per patient or per bed or per day, that's where the whole game is. So now if we just observe here in this particular example, my total revenue is around, let's just take it as 130 crores. And my expenses is around 186 crores. So I am running in a loss of 56 crores. My occupancy is only at 20%. But when I convert all of this, and let's say the total days billed is around 2000 nights or 2000 days. And however I arrived at these days, I will say, let's say, take an example, 10 patients who are going to stay for 30 days. And per day, so 10 patients into 30 days will be like a 300 bed nights. So something like that, we have arrived at 2000 bed nights. So when I convert this when I convert this 130 into a per bed night basis, it will come to 6,000 rupees. And when I convert this 186 again, so bed night is an easily available matrix because that's how we would have gone and arrived at the revenue also. But the total cost will be totally de-linked with how my revenue is charged. So when I arrive at the total cost of this 186 crores and then do so many bed nights bill, if you see per bed night, I am actually incurring 8,000 rupees, but I am charging only 6,000 rupees. But the same thing when my occupancy goes to 60%. So you see there is a development. So now the thing is, there is normally economies of scale. The increase in revenue is much higher than the increase in cost. So now when we observe, the revenue has gone up to 7,000 per bed night, but the cost has come down to 3,000. So that means that on a unit level also, each bed I'm going to charge, I'm making a profit there. So this is actually the point to where all the investors or people who are like actually assessing the business want to see. They're never fascinated by 400 crore, 500 crore number. They always ask, tell me how much are you doing per patient or per bed. So how have
So
I?
here,
Huh.
I would just like to interrupt. Here, the direct cost, if you are saying infrastructure cost, regulatory license, these are all capital expenditures. Here also we will take into account.
Okay, now when I say infrastructure, this is not the capital infrastructure running cost. I meant electricity.
Okay, maintenance.
But
Okay.
what you say is true, Kushbu.
But this
It is
includes
important because
correct.
your care is not provided unless that building
Yeah,
is built
infrastructure
out,
is
right?
there.
So ideally, it
Yes.
is also a cost of care. So you need to also factor that as a unit item in order to see whether you have recoverability. Otherwise, the whole thing, you would just make a wrong decision saying that I have achieved break even. Ideally, you won't have because you would have to also absorb that, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah,
These have
maintenance
to
is
be
high. Yeah.
amortization, so that you're covered for your capex rebuild also.
And licensing also.
Yes, this regulatory licensing is a amortization actually,
Okay.
because it will be much higher. When I amortize it will be lower.
Okay.
So and then I'll continue. So however I arrived at this, it's a revenue from care less cost of providing care. If you see here, I've mentioned it is inclusive of amortizations. So that gives me my operating margins. Now, so that's what it's imperative to compare the revenue on a unit level rather than looking at big numbers. Break-even capacity. So what is this? Now, let's say at 20%, I am on a loss in unit level. At 60%, I'm on profit in unit level. So my break-even is somewhere between 20 to 60%. So normally what we do is we will keep this occupancy like number of beds. Let's say 60% is 20 beds. When I put 20, it will be profitable. There will be some amount, let's just say 14. When I put 14, this unit level profit will be 0. That means 14 beds, or rather, let's just take that is around 35-40% is the capacity I need to reach to arrive at break even. So this unit level will help you arrive at what is your break even capacity. And then the time period break even, when you do a monthly stack out of your revenue at whatever stage you're reaching that 40%. Let's just say it is 13th or 14th month. You say, okay, at 14th month, I can reach my break even. That is, this is the unit matrix that we have done for the direct costs that are included. But there is another cost that we are like most vital one to reach at whatever we need. That is the customer acquisition and retention cost. So that at the first level, what we did was all the direct costs that are required to run the facility. And then we go one step forward. Let's say that is gross margin or that CM1. We come and give another adjustment to this marketing costs or customer acquisition costs and arrive at CM2. Now, if you see at CM2, the same cost, there is another cost addition to it. Now, the last time the profit at unit level was 3,500. Now it has gone down to 2,800. My revenue remains the same. So each time I go one line below. Now, let's say I go to CM3, there is another.
It's gone up. Actually, you're in a negative margin now, Vijay.
No, I'm talking about the second 60%.
There it is gone up to unit level profitability where it is actually negative in the first scenario.
Correct. So it has increased. My loss has increased, or rather my profit has decreased. Now, let's say from marketing, I go to another level, CM3, and I say corporate cost allocations. Let's say there is a corporate team that's sitting there. There are salaries of corporate team that are apportioned. Then there is a further discount, I mean, a reduction in my cost.
What is CM2 and CM3 you're saying?
Okay, so when I'm just assuming that CM1 is the gross margin, that is direct costs.
Okay.
CM2, normally we put marketing costs and arrive at CM2.
So we have to go to CM2. Matlab, when we will do, we have to go at the last now. Like
So
you are
should
taking
go up
stage
to,
by stage.
there is CM5, you need to go till CM5 also. Take
Okay.
all the costs and see on a net basis, there are three levels of looking at it. One level is, am I making profitability in gross level? That is direct cost covered. Okay, done. Next, am I making this thing on a net level, profit on a net level? Probably this 60% will not be enough to make a net profit. Probably I have to go to 70% to make net profit, even after covering my corporate costs. So each time you add another line item in cost, you need to keep factoring it in the per unit level. So just to give a brief about what normally it will be, the main cost that comes to a care will be the referral costs. Like all the doctors that refer patients to my care, all the hospitals that refer to my care. So that will be the referral commissions. And then all the generic advertisement cost, digital marketing cost that come up with it, we already know what they are. So why is unit matrix important? That every time you add on a line item into the cost, that has to be factored in for per bed cost or a per night cost. At the end, if I am still making positive margin on a per unit basis, even after putting all that, that means my pricing is correct. Okay, going forward. Now, what are the critical elements of financial model? A quick recap. I already showed the assumption sheet, how we build out with the underlying drivers for revenue and cost. Detailed capex schedule. When I say detailed, normally what people say, they say hospital equipments and they say 1 crore. And we normally don't agree to that. We say, okay, tell me what is this 1 crore. Now that later on they say, okay, there is a physiotherapy equipment that is 20 lakhs. There is a monitor that I need to buy that is around 2 lakhs. So please have a particular breakout for all the line items. And when you see this, you can probably say, okay, why do you think that you need to, deploy this particular equipment today itself? You can, defer it by another 6 months. So that level of clarity is required when we do the capex schedule. And the headcount data, that is, let's say I have 10 patients, I need 3 nurses. The moment my patient count goes up to 20, or even if it goes to 12, I still need to add another nurse. So when I say I'm at 20, I need 6 nurses. So this headcount data and the occupancy have to go hand in hand. It has to be linked. In the unit matrix, we already spoke about. The income statement, that's the P&L, balance sheet and cash flow. That's something that all of us already know. So now when I have all of this in place, I can say my model is ready for first cut. It is not yet complete because there are a lot of things that each person looks at. But before I get into that, there are a few, I would say, star points or like the golden rules of financial modeling that has to be followed. So one thing is build monthly predictions and aggregate them into annuals. So normally what we see in a lot of valuations where we see, somebody would have just arrived at 100 crore revenue. And when we ask for a monthly revenue, they will say 100 crore divided by 12. So that will be the revenue per month. So that's never the way a model has to be built. It has to come monthly and then culminate to an annual amount. And then apply a bottom-up methodology scaling from unit level. So I cannot say totally again, I am going to earn 10 crore revenue per month. I am going to charge 6,000 rupees. So 10 crore divided by 6,000 is so many patients. It cannot be like that. It should always be occupancy, number of patients, number of days, how much am I charging, and then arrive at the revenue. It should always be the deep dive approach. And then consolidate all model inputs in a single or a dynamic cell. So normally what happens, we always start the input with the first month. The first month will normally be the input, and going forward, for the first whole year, it will continue to be the same. And then in the next year, the same amount, probably we give an inflation adjustment of 10 to 15%, depending on what that line item is. So normally we keep all inputs in cell number A. When I say, if you go to cell number A from top to bottom, revenue to cost, you go, all the inputs will be in that particular cell. And somebody wants to say, today, I don't want 10,000, I want to, charge 20,000, just make the 20,000, everything should change. We keep it as dynamic as possible. And then set up a unified cell for inflation adjustments. Again, inflation, for cost, the inflation might be 10%, but revenue can go up by 30%. So again, same way that I told for inputs, keep a dynamic cell for inflationary adjustments. Then use color coding, very, very important. Normally, what we do is when we have an input cell, all inputs are marked in green. All calculation numbers are marked black. So now the moment they see a green one, they can be like, okay, this green cell means I can input it. Because when we send, let's say we have sent the model, prepared model to the client, and they are sitting, and because after we come out of preparing the model next 1 year, 2 year, they are the ones who have to use it. So if they have to do different iterations, they need to know where the exact value can be changed. Conditional formatting for cash negative. Again, whenever we are looking for how much is the cash outflow or the cash deficit that I need to fund in, normally we give a conditional formatting of that red color. When the value goes below 0, give it a red color. So let's say for the first 6 months, I'm getting red. After 6, I've got positive. So it goes on better. And there is another big capex that is happening in my 14th month. So again, when you have a look at it, in the 14th month, you get a red color cell saying, okay, in this particular month, again, you need to put some amount of cash. So these things help identify gaps very easily. Protect output sheets to maintain data integrity. What we again do is balance sheet, income statement, cash flow will never be given editable to clients, because if they just go and change one number, the balance sheet, cash flow, everything will have a ref error. And then again, they'll say, no, this is not working. It takes a lot of time for us to sit and figure it out. So normally they will not have to input any data in balance sheet, cash flow. All the data inputs will be only in the assumption sheet. So normally we protect that sheet and send it. Save distinct versions, because today you might feel, okay, 10,000 is not the right one, 20,000. And then tomorrow the client might say, no, I want the old 10,000 version. And then you do not have it saved. You need to now work on it again. So normally when we start with V1, by the time the model ends, it will be in V20, 25. So depending on how it goes. So now there is another part that we need to see. That's the sensitivity and scenario analysis. I request Mythili ma'am to take over.
Yeah, thanks, Vijay. So that small things on sheet maintenance and all, generally nobody tells us, but that is actually a part of truth about.
Based on experience.
Yeah, based on experience. Because lot of times referrer will come, then circular reference will come, external sheet links. Nobody will tell that. Please, break links and send. All those are all experience. Now, okay. Now, so we have built a model. This is basically will be iterations and first cut or probably a second or third cut based on finalizing all your assumptions you have done. Now starts the entire interplay on somebody likes the profitability, somebody doesn't like the profitability, and each of them is trying to say that why it is justified. So there are two aspects which are very critical. We'll call it the sensitivity and the scenario analysis. Now I will cover the sensitivity analysis because it has an immediate impact, and a scenario is based on you achieving a certain metrics at different point in time. Now a sensitivity analysis, very, very, very critical. All your key items which has an impact on your P&L. It could be like your pricing, which is a main item, or it could be a customer cost, or what do you call, patient to nurse build out, or any of those kind of metric which has a huge impact of the P&L, you put it in as part of sensitivity to see that if that particular ratio changes, how does your unit metrics change? How does it have an impact on your P&L? And also, how does it impact your what do you call, final requirement of funds? How your does your break even get pushed, etc., etc. It helps you get a perspective on trying to isolate the items which has a huge impact on your financial model. So that's where the sensitivity actually comes into play. By version 3 or 4, by the time you would sort of know which are the drivers which has a huge bearing on it. The other one is the scenario analysis. Now, my concept of achieving a certain pricing, or the pricing would be determined on the kind of care I want to give, kind of segment. So that can be a scenario where I say, if I target not this segment on a little upper segment, then my pricing can evolve this way. So the cost of care will also toggle that. And also, what is the metric by which they will actually achieve a full utilization? That can also be a scenario. So in the sense, you can say that some of them can be extremely optimistic, where they say, in the first year, I will have a full occupancy. But we know that in reality, that is a good to have, but we also have lot of players who are around us who are also doing in the same segment. So in those cases, you need to have what is like a base case or a best case bear, we also called as upside, downside, whatever be it. But I would suggest, don't do a financial model unless, don't give it to the client unless you have this final plugin for a scenario under sensitivity analysis in place. This will help you sort of iterate what is your cash requirement, when do you actually become positive, how much is your, what is your payback period for the investment, what is your return on capital employed you're getting, what are the break even scenarios. All this from both a promoter perspective as well as an investor perspective, all these question gets answered. And what actually comes out of these metric is that this also evolves as a key metric for the operation team who are supposed to go and implement it. So you can hold it on to them saying that, guys, you have come out with the best case scenario, you have studied the market, and you are telling me that you will get to a situation where you are so much occupancy by this month. If they don't do that, right, that means either they are not doing a targeted approach, or they have got some of their assumptions wrong, or it was probably a wrong location. It helps you assess your risk based on that, and also have stakeholders aligned to what are the base requirements. And also in a worst case scenario also helps you determine what will be the cash burn. Am I covered for it? Worst case, what is the extra amount of money that I need to do? Say that if I'm going to get a threshold after 3 years, what is the basic money that I need to get to do? So these are the different aspects which, once you have a tag on the model, then you know what are these and how it actually impacts your cash or any of your profitability requirement. So these are all the important drivers. So Vijay, you want to share for this thing?
No, you finish this. And
I'll
then
do that for okay, we'll do it for the subsequent one. Now, once your scenario analysis is complete and also sensitivity analysis complete, you actually get to go and have conversations with promoters, with investors. All of them will have a push and pull approach where they all finally culminate in one certain areas. Now, general model outputs you have is all the profit and loss, asset liability, cash flow statement. Now, generally, most of our conversations, because of finance background, we always have it on the P&L. But what the management actually needs is a cash flow statement, because P&L is a larger metric, but really, is it the money that is generated in the business, and what is the outlay that you need to put to get the output? All that conversations happen in a cash flow statement. So understanding a cash flow, building it month on month is very, very critical for you to determine what is, when the big outflow happens, when do you plan your tranche infusion, and how your entire usage and application of funds actually happens. So this entire thing gets tracked through your cash flow, which is specifically a month on month. Now, from a promoter side, it says how feasible your model is. It helps you revalue whether the unit metrics is a great place to start for all your pricing strategies, to say, is it making real sense to have that pricing? Then whether profitability and operational metrics, whatever is that you set out in terms of operationally you want to achieve. For example, first 6 months, you need to have the care facility in place. Now, that is a metric that they need to achieve. Unless that is there, you cannot actually have um, the next metric of revenue churn. So, that 6 months is not met, the entire model actually moves forward to the next scenario where the revenue gets pushed, your hiring plan gets pushed, everything is dependent on that. So these kind of operational metrics also start having an interplay with your finance metrics, and all these talking points need to go in part of MIS as well. So as I said, define KPIs for the team, because the team are there or sitting on investor money. So their operational metric has to align to your financial requirements in the model. Otherwise, there is no purpose in the investor putting all the money. If you're just sitting with the money in the bank, you need to also ensure that it gets implemented, right? So that is very critical. From investor, you need to know what are your cash back, what is your cash burn rate. These are items that actually you put it as a summary sheet, and all these are actually picked out. Your payback period, what is your cash burn, then what is your break even analysis for different, what is your peak funding, peak deficit for cash flow, which month you're having that, when you need that infusion, what is your return on capital employed, what are the key business milestones. Sometimes these are actually taken as part of your shareholders agreement, or when saying that you have said that you're going to build this product. For building this product, you have said that you will spend so and so in order to create something of value. So you need to do ABCD. So even those metrics are actually captured as part of the shareholders agreement. The ratio analysis, that is intrinsic as part of any model building, we do that. Now, we just sort of, the problem is that because we build out models extensively to run through an Excel, we will actually get lost in the Excel. So that is the reason that we sort of capsulated into various parts. It is like a painter. We have given you a canvas. How you create it is completely your imagination. You can create it the way you want. We never want to restrict people into saying this is how you create it. This can all act as a guidance for you to create the model that you want to do it in a way you want to see it, etc., etc. And it should never get limited. So even some of the models that we have built in the past, the way we have done it is, after stage 3, if we feel that the model is not progressing the right way, we have to tinker too much with the assumptions. I'm sometimes very heartless. I actually bin the whole model and I say, this particular sector, we will start building afresh. Because having a clean slate gives us ability to rethink and open our minds in a better manner and build it more effectively. So sometimes in the process, if you have to bin certain areas of the model, please go ahead and bin it. You will actually develop something which is much better and better. Don't be like, okay, I spent so much time, I have put efforts, I have built it, so if I have to change it, I have to do it. That means you're restricting yourself. Feel free to bin that area, that segment alone, delete it fully and restart building with the drivers. That will actually go a long way in building an effective financial model. So Vijay, what I was telling is, can we just do that part on how a bear bull scenario analysis has an
I'll
impact?
finish the whole this thing. So and then get into the last two slides. Okay, so now just what Mythili already mentioned. So there are two things that we normally do. One is the scenario analysis, and then one is a sensitivity analysis. Now, what is a scenario? If I have to put it, we can say it is best case, bear case or worst case or a base case. But I will say it is like what the promoter tells, what you feel actually works out, and what happens if everything goes for a toss. So these are the main three scenarios that we normally work with. When I say the best case scenario, it means that the promoter always paints a very beautiful picture of his business, and he says, I will be, let's say in case of a care, he says, I will be able to do 100% even in year one. So now let's say the best case is one, best case being one. Now, if you see the occupancy here, utilization goes to around 37% in 12 months, and then goes up to 50-60% in year two, and goes to 65% in the end of the third year. So this is the best case where the promoter says this is what he can do, assuming that everything goes well. Now, if I just make this 1 to 2, I say that, okay, this is a real picture based on my analysis. I feel doing 50% is not a possibility. Now it will be much lesser. So the moment I change here, the whole revenue, let's say all of my numbers are linked to this occupancy. So now this percentage changes my occupancy. Let's say I have a 50-bed or a 30-bed facility. I do 10% occupancy. Now 30 into 10%, I say 3 beds to be occupied. At the same time, when I change my occupancy scenario to the worst case, it will be 5%. So that time I can say, okay, it will be only 5 beds. But the promoter can say, no, no, it's going to be 20%. So we will keep a toggle here. Normally, I mean, the way we can do this, we have, enough amount of Excel tools or, AI to help us how to actually enable this. So we keep a toggle to say the best case scenario, worst case scenario, and the base case scenario. So that's all about the scenario analysis. When in the moment I change my scenario, all my numbers change. One is what is the room, that unit matrix that I was talking about, how much that goes down or comes up, and how much is my cost going up or coming down, and how is my profit break even. Now, when I'm going with the worst case scenario, my profit break even will be longer than what I expect. If you have a look at it, when I'm at the worst case, I need 16 months to break even. But I'm at the best case, I need only 8 months to break even. So again, coming to the point that what an investor or a promoter looks from a model. Now, any change in a scenario will, so let's say he will look at when am I going to break even. So change in a scenario will, okay, show him, okay, if I'm doing this, worst comes the worst, I need to break even in 16 months. And as an investor, what he looks at is, okay, when I put my money, let's say I'm going to invest 5 crores to this facility, when am I going to recover that money? In the best case, it should be 25 months. In the base case, it's 33 months. In the base case, now let's say this model is built only for 36-month period. You're not going to recover in this horizon. Probably I need to extend the model for another 2 years and check if it is going to be recovered. So that also covers what an investor looks and a promoter looks. Now, every change in this scenario brings in a change here. Talking about the sensitivity, if you see, I am just charging around, let's say, 9,000 rupees to be the base price. And there is a possibility that this price can go down by, it can just be 6,500, or it can go better to be 11,000. So now again, every small change in the pricing, let's say there is a 10% hike or a 10% reduction in the pricing, that also has an impact on all my numbers. So again, one is how much is my cash deficit? Based on this, I'm getting around 5.46 crores. This is all in lakhs. So I can say 5.46 crores of cash that is required. And I'm saying based on this scenario wherein I go best scenario for occupancy, best scenario for pricing, both best if it happens, I will be recovering all my, breaking even in 13th month, and I will be getting my money within 35 months. And also talking about all the other ratios that an investor looks at, it's like return on investment, return on capital employed. All of this we put it like a summary. Again, we put all of this in a summary because whenever we go present these models, we will not have the time to take them through our whole thinking process and tell them what exactly they want to look at. So the moment you show them, okay, you're going to make a 20% return on the amount of investment, they'll be like, okay, if whatever I am expecting, is it matching? Or if they say, no, I need to say minimum 30%. And then again, we sit for another round of discussion and say, okay, what factors can be better, or what factors should we, include to make it better. So this is how the build out works out. So that's the balance sheet, cash flow, and the income statement, and the assumption sheet, and the summary sheet normally. So this is, like, I would say, the bare minimum or the must required things to say that my model is complete to go present it somewhere. Now, if we have arrived at this level, even though there are hundreds of iterations, it will just be an iteration because you have already arrived at the basic logic and how your flow goes. And then first, let's say the promoter has a look at your model, his own model, and he says, okay, I just had an idea in my mind. Now, when I put numbers to that idea, this is how it looks like. At the same time, there's a person who is an investor who says, okay, I wanted to earn so much money through this model. I feel based on these numbers, I think it's possible or not possible. Once, let's say, this whole thing happened and the investment came through, the first thing they're going to do is set up an MIS and then track, okay, this is what your model said, how much are you going to deliver? So that's again another usage of model coming to that. That's it acts like an MIS tool wherein they compare what the budgeted figure versus what an actual was. Again, as Mythili told, setting up of KPIs for key team members. Let's say we have a production head, we have a marketing head, we provide KPIs for them based on the model. And achievement of milestones. Let's say in 12th month, I was supposed to break even. Where am I today in 11th month? And cash utilization in both the ends for the investor seeing.
And also, it helps to say actual cost of care. You have said this is where it is, this is your level. What is your actual cost of care you are getting it? And you would have tested the market, customer inflow because of giving a discount, how much it is improving. So pricing strategies also get aligned. So all those thing will get captured in MIS to say this is what you planned, but this is where it is. So all those alignment gets cleaned up in the next 6 months, and strategy also evolves.
Yeah. And then coming to the last, but the most important part, how this is where the whole point of, okay, what a model is started for me personally. When we looked at a lot of valuations, when the valuation exercise comes to us, there is already a sheet that is built in that says revenue is so much, cost is so much. And a lot of times, let's say the revenue currently is 0, but they say the next year I'm going to make 10 crores and that next year 50 crores. We were in a position like, okay, we will still continue to do a DCF and all that, but what's the business logic of it? So when we dive deep into it, that's when we could crack what a model is. So the first starting point for model personally for me was a valuation. So again, does it help us in valuation? We will see, okay, today this is what it is. Can they really do 100 crore revenue in next 5 years? So that business logic check. And then different scenarios. At each scenario, the valuation keeps changing. That's a toggle, again, a check that can be done. And the valuation that is done based on the model will always be like a basis for negotiation. And we already know the valuation that there are, again, regulatory valuations that we do. Even though it is a regulatory requirement, I would suggest that if we have like just 2 to 3 hours, if we spend and have a look at the model that is prepared for that valuation, it will really give us a lot of insights about different. Now let's just assume we do one valuation per month, worst case, and we do 12 valuations in a year, and the 12 valuations will be 12 different business models. And assuming in that, even if you get around 6 to 7 different businesses, different revenue drivers, different cost drivers, different matrices, that will itself be like, you don't even. So one thing is you doing the model on hands-on, agreed, but still just having a look at it will give you a lot of perspective about, okay, how a model works out. That's something, that's how I also have figured it out. So that's the end of it. If you have any questions, we can take it now.
I think we overshot it by 5-10 minutes. Sorry for that.
But the topic was too intense.
Somewhere,
Very well
Mythili also explained
summarized,
that.
actually. Yes, Mythili and Vijay, you have both summarized it very well. It is very relevant for my case, actually. I will
It's the luck
Because
that
just,
share the.
across the same industry and you are
Yes, it's just coincidence, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Very good input, yeah.
So you were saying something.
Like the infra cost somewhere in one of your slides you had calculated, that is an amortized cost or what actually?
Sir, the one that I had mentioned, there was a running cost. That's infrastructure running cost. But we
infrastructure running cost. Okay.
In that particular slide, it was running, but we should also provide a line item called amortized cost.
Okay. Okay.
So amortized cost, correct. Okay, then if we do not have
query.
Sorry.
Yeah, so how do you find relevant public published reports? Because when we are taking a benchmark of, let's say, 30,000 to 75,000 per bed revenue, it's hard to justify it. So how do clients agree for it, and what are the various sources we have, if any?
So normally when we do a comparative analysis or competitor analysis, we do a two-way approach. One approach is that the client itself says that, okay, if I am an Apollo, my competitor is a Manipal, my competitor is another another hospital. Then normally there are a lot of we have MCA, we have a lot of other websites wherein we can go and obtain their revenue, and then it's very tough to arrive at the per bed revenue. But normally
you have published sources for that, where they say listed entities, they generally have those metric published. You just have to sift through properly.
Metric published in a lot of listed entities.
So the unlisted one is the problem. There, we actually just call up and say, my grandfather had an orthopedic event, etc. Can you give me what is your price package, etc. All those we provided. See, we get a comparative of 2, 3 places. We sort of run a comparative and get the data in time, how their package is, and we sort of ask intelligent questions. We actually go visit that facility, see what is the sort of care facility that they provide, whether it is in line with us. We get the data and we populate saying that these are our direct competitors. All of them charge A, B, C, D as a normal average package size, etc. And how can we price ourselves? So that is a painstaking process. But generally, this business modeling doesn't happen within 2 weeks. It will always be a 1 month, 2 month exercise. So we have a reasonable time period to go actually check and get the data as well.
Understood, ma'am. Ma'am, if it's a niche business, which is like just getting started and there are no competitors to compare upon,
Then your pricing strategy will have to align. So your unit metrics of cost plus you have to revisit all your what do you call your all your pricing strategies you arrive no unit cost metrics plus this is the minimum what do you call percentage that I need to recover. That cost plus pricing strategies becomes very critical, and then you see how can you price your product considering your you when you build out itself you optimize your cost and then you build out and say what will be my pricing at different levels.
In those cases, we go by the business logic or other
Business
common.
logic, and we have to
Okay.
necessarily iterate pricing. Iterate pricing, we generally do it in 2, 3 cases. If it is a SaaS platform, then we have to take it over a amortized period is longer, and over a 5 year period, you will have a better return. So, those sort of pricing strategy, because pricing is generally two centric. Either it can be a customer ability to pay a certain price, that is one side of it. Then your cost plus your markup, which is another strategy. So it is a push and pull mechanism, and the truth is somewhere in between. You might charge it at 30,000, but there might be people not willing to buy it at 30,000. But given your current cost structure, where you can optimally price with a certain percentage return, that can be a determining factor for you to sort of read the market and see whether can they be consumer and then price your product. Over 3 months, if you don't find a customer, obviously you will drop a price and see how you can optimize cost, right? So there is a lot of automatic logic that comes out of it.
understood, ma'am. And this amortization, let's say I'm making my financial model only for a 3 year period. So my amortization, if I bought some equipment, I'll still amortize it over 10 year period, right? Or
It depends on your replacement period.
So
Right.
see now how long the model is being built has nothing to do with how long you have to amortize. So that can still be 10 year, 20 year, but your model is you are limiting it because of various reasons.
Understood. Ma'am, in case I have certain regulatory charges, I have to obtain certain licenses. Now, here the cost is two-faced. One is which I can ideally show in my reports, and they might be asking for some additional money as well. Is that also accounted? Is that also tabulated?
You should ask your auditor how to he can innovatively bring it into the books for
No,
the
logic wise, it
investor
has to
to
be
compensate it.
cash outflow for me because I am not a person who is certifying. I will be considered comfortable to put that money. But as an auditor, is somebody willing to sign that is a different question. But for cash outflow, you're right. It's a cash outflow. It has to be taken.
Right. So it would ideally appear in the cash flow statement.
That's what there
So
are.
it depends on what lens you're looking at it. Are you looking at it as a promoter investor or you looking at it as a auditor? There is a different lens to it.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Vijay.
I think Shilpa ma'am is raising her hand. Yes, ma'am.
I have a very basic doubt. Okay. The discounted cash flows in the horizon period as well as terminal value. This is what normally we have DCF. Okay. But then why will anyone have free cash flows available so much to the extent of, say, for example, one company is worth 100 crore or 50, 60 crores is coming from this horizon period. Why will anyone have that kind of free cash? They will deploy it again in the market. So end of the year, any point of time, you see whatever free cash flows we have considered will actually not be that much in a real business. So I don't know how to resolve this.
This was one of your earlier promoters had this question, no?
Yes.
Some time back, I think couple of months or a year back.
Yes, yes.
So he had this logic of why would I leave the money on the table, right?
Yes, cash and cash
So
equivalents, definitely he is not interested to block.
block, exactly. So that immediately, the minute he says he's investing, he started to again create value, right? And you'll
Yes,
have to account for that value in your cash flow. If you don't
yes.
have if you don't account for that value in the cash flow, then you have to value it as a additional surplus sitting there.
He's telling he will again, pay the payables. There should not be any payables. One
To
way you
clean
are
it
showing
up.
payables.
Yes, you provided for all that in your this thing itself.
So what happens when that happens, Mythili? Actually, that company wanted private placement, rather preferential allotment for promoters. So he was trying to justify the very, very base value, saying that it is a fair value by not showing any operations are there. But then it gets reinvested either in capex or here, there, payables. So
The
end
minute you
result is
put it in capex, you're creating a capacity which is going to yield revenue over the next few years.
but revenue and free cash flow is, much less because everything again there is an expense and the PAT margin is not so high, maybe 10%.
Then you will have to factor for that to come to a stage where your cash flow is. So don't why you're caught up in a 5-year spectrum for doing that model.
So already a matured organization.
So don't do a 5 year spectrum. Get to a stage where his value is put back and he has got a PAT margin that you considered as a threshold. Don't take it at the peak cash flow level. Take it at a steady state affairs level. If he's going to deploy that, pull it by another 2-3 years where the money is actually used, and then you take your terminal value.
Okay, thanks, Mythili.
Otherwise, then you will not have this conversation. You have addressed his problem, you close the engagement. It can't keep spiraling, no.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And
On behalf of BBA, thank you, Mythili, and thank you, Vijay, for giving this presentation. And I was wondering how you will take up this session, but how you started, and it is endless. Now I can sit for another 1 hour with you and get the insights. It was very wonderful, and I got so many insights. If you will be able to share this Excel or not, like it's your choice.
Excel, probably not. That's why I said, see, I believe that canvas is,
Yeah.
it's your beauty. You're a painter, you create your own canvas. Don't restrict yourself.
Okay,
In fact, I tell my team that you take it from the previous Excel that you built, right? Straight, I don't even touch it for review. I say that bin it. I don't want to see the previously built out.
Okay, no issue. It was a wonderful session, and thank you for the participation by the participants. Thank you.
thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So this is for the token of gesture by the BVA.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know it was a short span because we had 2 webinars, this a very short span. We had one during the week also. My special thanks actually to Vijay because we've been doing this between us for a longer time. We were able to put it and actually roll it back. But even
a
we
very
were
good
skeptical.
scenario analysis, yes. The
So we
case
were actually
study.
skeptical how much we can actually communicate. But I think we have told whatever we wanted to share as professionals so that everybody is empowered to take additional engagements based on this. And it's not restricted only to valuation. We are going beyond valuation.
Yes. And I am not very conversant with Excel. So when you see key input me this color coding, that how I will learn.
No, we
that
were not. When we started out, we were not. We have
What-
figured our way through this whole process of model building where we have found the optimal mechanism of doing it. It is a
Yeah, it is very good technique. When you say ki input me, you can put green color coding, conditional formatting. That is very good thing. But yeah,
we
learning.
were actually very thankful for one painful client who actually didn't pay us, but actually gave us a
What
full
is modeling?
detailing on how modeling has to be done. We went through, I think, version 26 to actually crack it. By the end of it, we were like masters. Now we can manage it.
That's
So
it.
every time you do a share, you do a Excel, you share, you change the file to version 1, version 2, like this you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time there is a change that matters to the model. If it's just a small change, we don't.
Okay.
But let's say the whole pricing changes, the driver for a main item like a pricing or a cost changes, then we definitely make a change. Better to have it because there are a lot of cases we be like, no, I don't think I had a discussion with so and so person. He feels we should continue with so and so pricing. Again, we have to, change everything. So it's better we have.
Yeah, even I do that. It really helps a lot, especially when we go back to our own old assumptions instead of the new ones.
Yeah, that's true. Perfect. Thank you all for giving us this opportunity. As ever, this has been a very close community. I'm ever thankful for BVA for actually getting me into this whole valuation and other game. And I've really thoroughly enjoyed it, and a big thanks to it.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.